You've eaten liver before, maybe onions on top. Maybe it was chicken or beef fried in a pan on a Monday. You didn't think twice. Liver is just food. Cheap, iron-rich, the kind of thing your grandmother swore made you strong. Now picture a different plate. Same organ, same idea, just a different animal. A polar bear pulled from the ice, its liver dark and heavy in your hands. Every survival instinct says, eat it. You're freezing, you're starving. Protein is protein. But if you took one real bite of that liver, you could be dead within days. Not from bacteria, not from rot, from a vitamin. The same vitamin in your morning multivitamin, the one on the label you never read. So here's the strange question nobody asks out loud. Why does the exact same organ that keeps you alive in a cow become a loaded weapon inside a polar bear? Why did entire Arctic cultures build a hard rule around never touching it? And why is hunting one now something that can land you in federal court? The answer isn't about the bear at all. It's about you. Here's what most people assume. They think we don't eat polar bears because they're rare, because they're beautiful, because they're endangered and there's a law. And that's the whole story. Culture, sentiment, a conservation poster with a cub on a shrinking iceberg. That's the comfortable version. And it's wrong. Or at least it's the last chapter of a much older book. Because long before there was a single law, before conservation was even a word, human beings were already refusing to eat parts of this animal. Not out of kindness, out of fear. Hard-won, body-counted fear. The Inuit didn't avoid polar bear liver because they loved the bear. Native people in Siberia and Alaska and northern Canada avoided eating polar bear liver and seal liver for this very reason. The livers were taboo. That taboo wasn't superstition. It was a data set written in dead bodies over thousands of years. Here's the part that flips everything. The thing trying to kill you inside that bear isn't poison the way you imagine poison. It's a nutrient. It's the excess of a good thing. Your body runs on the exact same chemistry. The only difference is dose. And dose is where evolution does its quiet, brutal accounting. So here's the truth this whole video is going to prove. You can't safely eat a polar bear because it sits at the very top of a food chain that concentrates a fat-stored vitamin, breeds a freeze-proof parasite, and triggers an ancient disgust reflex. And every one of those dangers is really a mirror, showing you the exact limits built into your own body. The first driver is the vitamin itself, retinol, vitamin A. Here's how it works. Vitamin A doesn't flush out of you like vitamin C. It's fat-soluble, which means your body stashes it, mostly in your liver, and it stays there. A little is essential. Too much becomes a toxin that swells your brain, peels your skin, and shuts you down. Now scale that up a predator at a time. Seals gorge on vitamin-rich fish and store it in their blubber and livers. Polar bears eat almost nothing but seals, and they store it too. Each level stacks the last. Some Arctic animals demonstrate no signs of hypervitaminosis A, despite having 10 to 20 times the level of vitamin A in their livers as non-Arctic animals. These animals are top predators and include the polar bear, Arctic fox, bearded seal, and glaucous gull. The bear can handle it, you can't. It has been estimated that consumption of 500 grams of polar bear liver would result in an acute toxic dose for humans. That's less than a pound, one meal. And we've known this for over 4 centuries. It has been known to Europeans since at least 1597, when Gerrit de Veer wrote in his diary that while taking refuge in the winter in Nova Zemlya, he and his men became severely ill after eating polar bear liver. Picture those men, frozen, half-starved, finally eating, and then their skin literally beginning to peel off their bodies. But here's where it gets stranger. The second driver isn't in the liver at all. It's woven through the muscle, the meat you'd actually want to eat. It's a worm, a parasite called Trichinella nativa. And unlike almost every other parasite humans learn to defeat, this one evolved a superpower for the Arctic. It survives being frozen solid. Here's what that means in practice. You freeze pork to kill parasites. It works. Freeze this one, and it just waits. Motile freeze-resistant Trichinella nativa larvae were identified in meat frozen for over 15 weeks. Cooking meat to an internal temperature of at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit is necessary to kill it. In one documented case, microscopy identified motile Trichinella larvae, over 800 larvae per gram, in samples of bear meat that had been frozen for 110 days in a household freezer. Over 800 living worms per gram, still moving, after months in the deep freeze. Now, here's the one your body's been hiding from you. But if you think the vitamin and the worm explain all of it, you're not even close. So why does the idea of eating that liver already turn your stomach before you know a single fact about retinol or parasites? That reflex has a name. It's disgust. And it isn't manners. It's one of the oldest survival programs your species ever wrote. Disgust is the instinct that solves the poison problem without any math. Your ancestors couldn't measure micrograms of vitamin A. They couldn't see a worm too small for the eye. So evolution installed a shortcut, a gut-level no that fires before the conscious mind even weighs in. The face wrinkles, the stomach clenches, you pull back. Here's why that matters. The ancestors who felt that revulsion and obeyed it lived. The ones who overrode it, who reasoned that meat is meat, that a taboo was just backward superstition, those ancestors ate the thing that killed them, and their line often ended right there. That's exactly what happened when outsiders arrived. But when Europeans started pushing into those areas, they thought those taboos were hogwash. To them, it was all a silly superstition, about on par with worshipping trees. So whenever these European explorers made polar bear stew, they chopped up the rich, purple liver and tossed it into the pot. They had the reasoning. They lacked the reflex. They soon learned the hard way that there's real wisdom in taboos sometimes. Disgust was the culture, and the culture was just the memory of everyone who'd already died. Now, here's the part nobody talks about, because there's a group of humans who eat polar bear all the time and don't die, the Inuit, for thousands of years. That should break the whole theory. If the animal is a death trap, how does an entire people thrive on it? Because they cracked every driver, one by one, without a lab. They never ate the liver. That single rule sidestepped the vitamin A entirely. And the meat? They didn't trust the freeze. They cooked it thoroughly or handled it in ways that neutralized the risk. Polar bears seem to play a limited role in the transmission of this disease to humans because native residents living in the Arctic traditionally consume well-cooked bear meat. Here's the twist that confirms the whole logic. The outbreaks that hurt people weren't from careful traditional eating. They came from cutting corners. In one Canadian outbreak, confirmed cases were more likely to have consumed dried meat rather than boiled meat. Dried, not cooked. The exact shortcut the tradition warned against. The exception doesn't break the rule. It proves the ancestors were right and shows precisely what happens the moment you stop listening to them. Look at how consistent this pattern is across time and geography. In 1597, Gerrit de Veer's stranded Dutch crew ate polar bear liver near Nova Zembla and fell violently ill, some fearing they'd die. The first written European record of the danger, more than 400 years ago. The proof was their own peeling skin. The rule was already ancient before they arrived. In 1913, on the far side of the planet, Antarctic explorers Douglas Mawson and Xavier Mertz ate the livers of their own sled dogs to survive. It is claimed that both were poisoned and that Mertz died from eating those livers during the Far Eastern Party. Same vitamin, different predator, same lethal dose. In 1943, biochemists T. Moore and K. Rodal put numbers to the legend, measuring the vitamin A content and toxicity of bear and seal liver in the Biochemical Journal, turning centuries of taboo into hard science. The taboo was right the whole time. The paper just confirmed it. In June 2000, in two northern Saskatchewan communities, Bear meat infected with Trichinella nativa was consumed by 78 individuals. A single shared source, dozens sickened. Proof the parasite is no relic of the past. In 2016 and 2017, in the Norton Sound region of Alaska, 2 outbreaks, each involving 5 patients, were reported, both linked to the ingestion of raw or undercooked walrus meat. Another Arctic predator, the same freeze-proof worm, the same broken rule. And in July 2022, the danger reached the lower 48. Among 8 people who shared a meal that included the meat of a black bear harvested in Canada and frozen for 45 days, 6 cases were identified. The meat was grilled with vegetables and served rare. 2 cases occurred in people who ate only the vegetables. The worm crossed from the meat into the vegetables on the same grill. That's how relentless this thing is. To understand why the top predator is the most dangerous meal, you have to go back to a single 1967 study. Researchers R.W. Lewis and J.A. Lentfer published The Vitamin A Content of Polar Bear Liver, Range and Variability in Comparative Biochemistry and Physiology, the work that pinned down just how much retinol these animals warehouse, and how wildly it varies from bear to bear. Here's why that variability is the real horror. It means there's no safe portion size you can eyeball. One bear's liver might sicken you. The next might kill you outright. You can't see the difference. You can't taste it. This connects to a deeper principle in ecology called biomagnification, the same reason apex predators everywhere carry the heaviest chemical loads. Whatever the prey stores, the predator inherits and multiplies. The polar bear is simply the endpoint of a long Arctic assembly line, and its liver is where the whole line piles up. Lewis and Lentfer's measurements are why we can say, with real numbers instead of legend, that the animal at the top of the food chain is the one your body was never built to eat. Now look at the bottle in your medicine cabinet. Turn it over. Every vitamin A supplement, every high-dose fish oil, every acne medication built from concentrated retinol carries a warning, a maximum dose, a caution for pregnancy, a line about liver damage. That warning label is a modern echo of an Inuit taboo. Same danger, same fat-soluble vitamin, same past this line, the good thing becomes the deadly thing. And that flicker of hesitation you feel over undercooked wild game, the pink center of venison, the rare bear sausage at a hunter's table, the raw meat trend that makes your stomach tighten, that's the disgust reflex, the exact instinct that kept your ancestors alive, still firing inside you today. You've never eaten a polar bear. You probably never will. But the machinery that would stop you is running right now, quietly, every time you read a dosage or hesitate over pink meat. Your body remembers a lesson you were never taught. So go back to that plate, the liver in the pan, the onions, the Monday you never questioned. In a cow, it's dinner. In a polar bear, it's a countdown. The vitamin that builds your bones can swell your brain. The freeze that should kill the worm only teaches it to wait. And the taboo you thought was sentiment was a survival manual written in bodies. Rare, beautiful, protected. That's the last reason we don't eat polar bears. The first reason is older than any law. It's the food chain that concentrates a poison out of a nutrient. It's a parasite that beat the cold. It's the disgust in your own gut, still standing guard over a threat you'll never meet. You don't avoid the polar bear because a law protects it. You avoid it because long ago it stopped protecting them.